Hi guys, welcome back to the Big Sew Along. It is now September and I had planned today to have some shirts to show you. However, I had kind of a lousy sewing week. I did work on some projects, but they were all repairs and alterations for other people, so nothing fun. And they took up all my time. But I did make a magpie this week. It was the one thing I did make for myself. It is from Tina Given's Sychil magazine #1, and I can't remember when that came out, but it's been a while. This is a teeny tiny picture of what it should look like. I love this slip. I've made it a couple of times. I think this is maybe my third one. The first one I made in linen, and it's by far my favorite. The second one I made in a cotton double gauze, which I also like. It was just like, it's kind of a ho-hum color, but aside from that, I like it a lot. Today, I made it in a white cotton shirting, and I did that for a couple of reasons. I find that, especially at this time of year, I'm always reaching for my white slips. And because of that, they're always in the laundry. So I felt like I needed another one. The white fabric that I had was a white cotton shirting. Not the best choice for a dress, a slip dress especially. Although it's not terrible, it's actually cute. It's just not, it would not be my first choice for this. I much prefer something drapier, a washed, in the magazine they suggest using a washed dupioni. I love that. I love a washed dupioni. I love just like buying dupioni or even a taffeta and throwing it in the washing machine and drying it and going with it. I love the way that looks. I did not happen to have any. I did actually, but I have like a half a yard of it, so we're not enough for a slip. Anyway, so there are a couple of things about this pattern though. In the instructions, it instructs you to make a dart based on the notches in the pattern. However, in my version of the pattern, and I got this when it very first came out, my version did not actually have darts printed on the pattern. So it needs darts because otherwise you have a big gaping armhole. What I did was I just basted my side seams together. I sewed the shoulder seams, I basted the side seams, and I tried it on. And I just figured out, I like stood in front of the mirror and just like clipped it like this so I could see how much I needed to take out of the armhole. And then I put a pin at my bust point. Then I just did a wing it on the dart. I have used that dart on all three versions and it's been fine. It's easy enough to do, but just be aware it does probably need a dart, and there isn't one marked on the pattern, at least not in the original pattern, the one that I got. Also, I feel like in the pictures this looks longer than it is. When I've made this, and it might be because there's a lot of times there's a ruffle or like a flounce or other things added onto the bottom. Today I added a 7-inch ruffle to the bottom of mine. So just for reference, it's 7 inches longer than the pattern. The pattern without the ruffle, it's the length of the pattern itself. I hope that was confusing. 7 inches longer with the ruffle than it would be without it. I didn't take anything off and replace it with ruffle. I just added the ruffle. So the other thing I did was I was trying to think of ways to make it a little, more interesting. And my original idea was just to add a pocket, which is, a patch pocket is not really all that interesting. However, I came across this pattern from Diane Ericson called Just Pockets. You can buy it as a paper pattern or download. I downloaded it. They're all pockets, so it's not like a ton of pages to print out or anything. Now, I will say there's nothing in here that you couldn't probably figure out all on your own. However, it's nice to have the pieces so you don't have to draft a new pattern like every time you want one or whatever. These pretty much work with anything. The other thing is, I can't honestly remember how much this was, but I will put it down below in the description box along with a link to the pattern itself. It was worth the price just for the creative ideas she had for other pockets. So there was that. So I added a window pocket to this pattern, and I love the way the window pocket came out. And then I added a couple of appliques. Now, for my appliques, I just used downloadable clip art, and it's clip art that I've had for a long time. I've used it on other things. I tried to get something new. I bought a pack of really cool looking clip art from Etsy, and it came in a file that was like available through Dropbox. Never had a problem with that before. I've done it a million times. Never had a problem. For some reason, I could not access this pattern, these images via my Dropbox. So whatever. I don't know what the issue is. I didn't use those. I just went back to the old ones. I'll figure out the Dropbox some other time. I just, it's one of those things, like one thing after another was just not really quite working. So anyways, I'll show you in this clip here, first the pocket and then the appliques. And mostly this, however, is not a tutorial on how to do a pocket or an applique. It's really more of a tutorial on how not to do an applique, because I literally repeatedly mess things up. Anyways, I'm going to show you anyway, because hopefully maybe somebody can learn from my mistakes. This is my pocket pattern piece, and you can see I've already cut out two of these, a front or a facing and a back pocket piece. The facing is this piece, and I've also interfaced the wrong side of this. And then I just took my pattern. I just used a lightweight sew shear interfacing on this. Took my pattern and put it back over top and just drew around that little opening with chalk. So this can go away for the moment, and this can go away for the moment. And now we have the front of my dress. I tried this on and sort of estimated where I want my pocket to be. It would be easier, obviously, to do this before you sew your dress together, but because I didn't really know exactly where that pocket should go, I wanted to make the side seams, and I didn't base it, and just sewed them together and went with it. So okay, so now we're just going to sew this pin right here is roughly where I want the top of my pocket to be. I'm thinking something like that. So I'm just going to line this up, wrong side up, right side to right side. And I'm going to pin that right there where that pin is. Obviously, if you're doing it this way, you want to be sure you're only pinning it to the front of your dress and not also to the back. Then, just like that. I'm going to go in front of my mirror. I'm just going to go try this on again and make sure that this pocket is straight and that it's indeed where I want it to be. And then I'll make any changes if I need to. But then I'm just going to sew a straight stitch all around this, all around this blue chalk line that I made. Okay, so now I have this sewn down. You can see it's sewn all the way around that. Again, this is the outside front of my dress. Now I'm just going to really carefully take my scissors. I'm going to cut a hole just anywhere in here, and I'm going to cut around this. I'm going to trim it out, and I'm going to leave maybe 1/4 of an inch. I don't want a lot in there. Just be careful that you're not cutting the back side of your dress when you do this. And again, if you're smart, you'll figure out your pocket before you put your dress together, and then you won't have that problem. But the nice thing about a window pocket is you can always do it as sort of an afterthought, which is nice, actually. So that's all trimmed out. Now I'm also going to trim right into these corners. And I am going to put a few clips just around this curved edge. Okay, that should be good. Now, let's get this in the right position here. We're going to flip this over to the back side. Now, it looks really wonky and wrinkly at this point. It requires some serious pressing. So, I am going to go press that open like that. And then I'm going to understitch my seam allowance to my pocket facing. And then we'll come back and apply the back side of our pocket. Okay, so that's our front part finished. You can see our pocket there. I think that's pretty cute. I love that little half moon shape. All right, so now from the back side, from the wrong side, and I am going to put a piece of notebook in here just so I don't pin my stuff to the other side of my dress. Let's put this in here like this. Now I'm going to put the back piece on here like this, and I'm going to make sure that it's really flat all the way down. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to baste this in place. And there's a reason that I'm basting it. I'm going to put my applique on before I finish sewing the pocket in. So, but I need the pocket back to be here. So I'm going to baste this in like this. I'm going to baste it, sorry, from the wrong side. And I'm going to go all the way through. I'm going through the front of my dress. So through both pocket pieces and the front of the dress, basting it all the way around the outside edge of the pocket. Okay, so I just used freezer paper like this that comes on a roll that I got like at the grocery store because it's cheaper. And you can buy these wax paper sheets from craft supplies and stuff. And I think you get like 12 or 24 or something for whatever in a pack. This stuff is the same thing. It might be a little bit lighter weight, but I've always had luck with this, so this is just what I do. And you can see I just used a regular piece of notebook paper and cut it out 8.5 by 11. And now I'm going to cut out my fabric. I'm actually going to use my notebook paper to cut out my fabric because it lays flatter. So here's the thing. You want to be sure that your fabric doesn't have too much fraying going on, because if it does, it'll get stuck up in your printer. So what I do is I cut it on the bias. So this cut edge right here is bias. So now when I cut this whole thing will be on the bias, and it doesn't really matter. You can do it any way you want. It's just that this way you get less fraying around the edges. This is my fabric. I'm going to take this to the iron. I'm going to place the waxy side onto the wrong side of my fabric, and I'm going to iron it on just like that. And then you're going to put it in your printer just like you would a normal piece of paper, but just make sure that, like you can see here, I have some frayed edges. Trim those off before you stick it through your printer, and also just be sure that you have the right side up. For my printer, the side that gets printed on gets face down. For some printers it gets printed, it goes face up. So just make sure you put it in the printer the right way so that your image prints on the fabric. So I can't find my scissors pictures because I'm so absent-minded today for some reason. Anyways, I'm also going to make an applique of one of these. This is just a black and white copy. So this will work for our purposes as well. Now what I need to do really quickly is, you can see this is my wax paper on here, and it just irons. Don't use steam when you iron this on, just use a hot iron. But you can see I have part of my fabric is hanging off. My fabric stretched, or it wasn't cut exactly straight, or whatever. It's you just want to be sure that you have nice clean edges so that you don't get anything, like I said, stuck in your printer. So I'm just going to trim off the excess fabric here. Make sure all 4 of my edges are nice and straight and clean. Great. Now all you need to do, go put your fabric in your paper feeder, put your image in your printer, and copy it. So as you can see, I found my scissors images. So that's what they look like when they're finished. I'm just going to peel this one off of the paper. It comes right off. That you can't really reuse that wax paper though, because once the wax is used once, it's no good. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Now I'm going to use Heat and Bond, And I'm sure everybody knows how to use this. It's the stuff on the roll. I use Heat and Bond Light, especially on something like this, because I don't want the applique to be super heavy on my my garment. Also, I don't want to really waste a lot of this stuff, so I'm going to put it over here on the edge. I can see that all of my watches are going to be included there. So I'm just going to cut right along here and here. Okay, so I'm going to do this for my scissors and for my watches. I'm just going to go ahead and iron that on. Again, don't use steam, just a hot iron, and make sure you cover your whole image. And then I'm going to cut each one out. Okay, so this is the front of my dress, obviously, my pocket. I have a couple of these appliques cut out. I think I'm only going to use 2, although, yeah, I think just 2. Yeah, so I'm going to place this here. I kind of like that. Okay, whatever. Pick out, place your appliques wherever you want them. First, take the paper backs off, because we need to iron these on here. They're a lot easier to cut if you leave the backing on, in case you haven't used this stuff before. But getting that paper out can sometimes be a real pain. Anyways, there we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to make sure that these are where I want them. And let's see, move this up a little. I think right there and there it looks good. So I'm going to go iron these on. Use a press cloth, because sometimes the ink will come off on your iron. And then we'll meet at the sewing machine, where we will do, where we will go around the whole edge with like a satin stitch. I don't know if I said this before, but when you cut out these appliques before you put them on your fabric, don't cut them too close to the image. You want a good 1/4 of an inch to sew on for your satin stitch. And I'm using a satin stitch foot here. I don't know that it's necessary. I think I've done satin stitch before without it, but it definitely is easier this way. I have my machine set on a zigzag stitch. It's a 2.0 width and a 0.6 length. I'm just going to start someplace where it looks like, you know, it'll be an easy place to stop and start. And I am going to, I kind of want the edge of my applique to be towards the outside edge of your zigzag. And then we're just going to go all the way around. Okay, so that's actually not bad. It's not great. It's hard for me to see this white on white. I'm sure you guys are gonna have the same trouble, but I missed this edge here on this side around this, around the tip of my scissors and the edge. So I am going to pull those stitches out and go over that section again. And then I am going to go over my clock. This is why you can see how hard it is to get around corners and stuff. That's why it's really better if you use an image, something like this, that doesn't have a lot of tons of detail in the outline. Okay, well, as you can see, not my finest job with the satin stitch. However, it is what it is. So I highly recommend going slower than I did. Also, I found that if I made my stitch a little, not wider, but shorter, I believe I had it at a 0.6 for length. And then when I did the clock face here, I did it at a 0.4, and I think that was actually a little bit better. This looks a little sparse. Anyway, the other issue I have with this is I originally had us top stitch just based our pocket together because I thought I was going to have to open it up and get in through the bottom to do the tip of my scissors. Now I see that they're not nearly as big as I imagined them to be, and I didn't need to do that because I could just flip that back. So what we are going to do though is pull out our basting stitches. Okay, so aside from not needing to have basted that down, obviously I forgot to serge my pocket. It would be smart to serge the pocket altogether, both pieces of the pocket separately before you even start the pocket. Now that I have this down, now that I have this done the way it is, you have a choice here. You can either stitch your pocket down the way we just had it with the basting stitches so that you see stitching on the outside, or you can just stitch these two pieces together around the edge and serge them, which is what I'm going to do. I won't be able to serge this little spot right here. But the whole point of that was this like flap up here needs to be held down somehow. And on a white shirt, I didn't want to just have tack stitches there. I thought if I put my appliques in the right place, it would be able to hold that piece down. And in fact, it does. And I think it'll be cute. And next time I do a project like this, I think if I'm this disoriented or like out of it, I will wait for another day. So what else do I have to talk about this week? That was literally all the sewing I did. And it took me forever just to get that done because I messed one thing up after another, after another, after another. But I also did get this new book. I think it's new. It's new to me. It's called Zero Waste Sewing, and it is by somebody named Elizabeth M. Haywood. It has a bunch of different patterns in here. They're not actually patterns, it's really more just like cutting instructions for things you can make that are zero waste. So they essentially use all of your fabric. There are a few things in here that I thought were really cool. It's a picture of a top. There is, I mean, I'm never going to wear a halter, like never even wore a halter when I could get away with wearing a halter, but that's very cute if you're a halter kind of gal. Then there's also like that little shift thingy is very cool. So she has some really cool ideas in here, and I feel like even if I didn't, even if I don't ever make any of these things, I really like the idea of zero waste, and it gives you a lot of ideas on how to cut different garments without actually having any remnants, which is cool because, I mean, I have more remnants than anybody could possibly ever find a use for. I don't, again, of course, don't have a price on this. It was not expensive. I want to say it was $15 or $13, something like that. Anyways, I will link to that. I bought this one off of Amazon. You can buy it directly from the publisher. However, they are in England and the shipping to the US is cost prohibitive. So I got mine via Amazon. I will link that down below. Now, the last thing I have to say is I bought this fabric. So I was looking for black Petersham. I'm making another, not an elope, what's it called? Elota. I'm making another Elota, which was the taffeta dress I made a couple of weeks ago. And I wanted to trim it with black Petersham. My local fabric store didn't have any in the size that I needed. I needed either 3/8 or 1/2 inch. So I just went to Etsy and I found some at this fabric store, and it turns out they actually have a regular fabric store too, not just on Etsy. And so this place is called Latoff. Can you see that? I'll link them below. But I bought they have an Etsy shop, and that's where I found them. But then I went to their regular website, and I found, like, I think they have a little bit more things on their regular website than on their Etsy shop. I got this fabric from them while I was waiting for my Petersham. And because really, who buys Petersham and doesn't even look at fabric? That would be ridiculous. Anyways, I got 2 yards of this fabric. It is a cotton voile, and it's got this really cool black embroidered border. Let's see if you can see that. You see that? This is the border. Oh my God. And it's as light as air. It's really pretty. It's like super light. So here's the thing, you guys. Because you guys are Tina fans and you'll totally understand what I'm talking about. I saw this and I immediately thought this would be perfect for a pair of plinka pants. That I could have this really cool embroidery at the bottom, and that would be really awesome. However, now once I got it, I thought maybe it needs to be a tunic or a top or a slip. I have enough. I have 2 yards. So as long as it isn't anything too crazy, it's wide, it's like 60 inches wide. So I know I can get a plinka pant out of this, but I could also get something else out of it. So if you guys have any suggestions, if you think it's better for one than the other, if you think pants are the way to go, let me know that. If you think it would be better for a top or a tunic or a slip or something, I would be grateful to know that as well. And if you have a suggestion for which top, slip, or tunic, you can leave that for me below too. I clearly can't make any decisions this week because it's been kind of a lousy sewing week, so I clearly need some help. That's where you guys come in. Let me know what you think down below. Thanks again for tuning in. I will leave you guys with I'll leave you guys with some clips of me in the white Magpie that I finished today, and then I'll also show you if I can find them. They might still be in the laundry because they usually are. If I have my other Magpies available, I'll shoot a couple pictures of those for you too, so you can see how it looks in different fabrics. And that's it for this week. Hopefully the coming week will be a better sewing week than last week was. I hope you guys are all having a great week. Again, I really appreciate you stopping by, so thanks so much. I will see you next week.